Hello, and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the recent speech that Kaja Kallas made at the Munich conference. So without further ado, let's get into it. Kaja Kallas has made a speech at the Munich conference which I think will go down in history as one of the most deluded, ridiculous speeches ever made. When you compare the quality of speech delivered by Marco Rubio to the speech that she delivered, the difference between the two is the same distance between the earth and the moon.
Excellencies, dear friends, I want to start with some appreciation for the marvel inspired of this panel, Europeans Assemble. And we're getting there, dusting off our capes, pulling up our boots, revving up our engines.
That is the level of polarization that you see in the current geopolitical stratosphere between the United States and the European Union. And bear in mind, the United States and the European Union are actually allies. So this divide, the magnitude of this divide is something that is unprecedented. Let's have a look at some of what Kaja Kallas had to say. I think in terms of stupidity and an award for the most moronic political representative of the century, it's a close battle between Annalena Baerbock and Kaja Kallas. If Ursula von der Leyen is indeed grooming Kallas to become the next in line to head the EU, then I would say that we have really dark times ahead, because this woman has absolutely no clue about what is going on in the world. Her statements indicate her lack of understanding, her lack of a sense of reality. She has completely lost touch with the populace of Europe, with the wants and needs of the common citizens of Europe. So her hubristic mentality has absolutely no bounds. I think if there's ever somebody that is going to push us into direct conflict with the Russians, and somebody that is going to be one of those warmongers that's going to lead to a third world war, then between her, Keir Starmer, Merz, and a few of the other morons in the European Parliament, job done. They will definitely achieve their aims, because these people are so far out of touch with reality. I don't think there was ever a time, or probably when you look at the decline of the Roman Empire, and when you listen to or when you read up on all the issues that plagued the Roman Empire during its decline, it was a consistent descent into madness. And I have to say, I think we've now, with what's going on currently in the world, I think we've actually outdone them in every aspect. Whether you look at the Epstein related issues, or just the madness promulgated by these politicians, I think we deservedly earned the title for it. So let's have a look at what she had to say and analyze it. She talks about Europe is like the Avengers assemble, and they're all ready and gearing up for the future. And, it's about their excellent living standards. Once again, this woman is out of touch with reality. She probably has an amazing living standard, probably flying all over the world, eating the best of foods, has no problem putting her heating on. Perhaps she should take a trip down to where the pensioners are, or where the common local people are. Forget about all the money they're throwing at all these foreigners that they're bringing into the country illegally. Go down to your own people and see the struggle and strife that they're going through only because of the misguided and sick policies that these morons have implemented. And again, just like Sadiq Khan, just like Keir Starmer, rather than admitting that they've done something wrong, walking back those policies and looking at how they can better society for their own people, they double down on these insane policies. So they go from bad to worse and just keep going down the spectrum. And the hubris, the idiocy of it all, standing up there on a platform and lecturing to the world about how you've done these amazing things. I don't understand. Happiness where? Come down to London. Go through Brixton, go through Whitechapel, see what the people are experiencing. I walked out the other day, I went for a walk around Croydon, and I was shocked at the number of soup kitchens that have opened, the number of, charity aid places that have opened, where people are standing in queues waiting to get a hamper just to make ends meet and provide food. Now, if that's your idea of the happiness index, then, my dear, you've lost touch with humanity somewhere along the line. Alternatively, I think you're a sick psychopath that needs to be put into a mental asylum. Because if you see that as something good, then there's something definitely wrong with your intellect. Right now, you'll get more intellect out of a piece of cardboard.
Europeans also know what this fight is for. Not only our excellent living standards, health and happiness, but lessons we have learned from our own history. Contrary to what some may say, woke, decadent Europe is not facing civilizational erasure.
She says, contrary to what is being spouted out there, woke, decadent Europe is not basically collapsing, for want of a, I'm paraphrasing here. Now, I don't know what she sees when she goes out into society, or if she does go out into society at all. Because this is a clear disconnect between the populace and the ruling class. It is definitely not more evident than this. This woman is sick. To stand there and say that woke Europe is moving ahead, tell that to the people that have to pay 5 times more for the price of their energy than what it should be worth. Tell that to the Germans who stood by and watched as their Nord Stream pipeline was sabotaged, only to blame the Russians who actually helped build the pipeline. So by the Russians destroying their own pipeline, it's tantamount to a suicide mission. But again, in the heads of these morons, it makes sense. And then they take us for morons because they perpetuate and spout this nonsense and look at us as, beings with a very low intelligence, that whatever nonsense they spout, we gobble up. It's like, don't worry about these idiots, they'll listen to anything we say. Well, this is it. This is the woman standing there mocking. It's insane. She talks about she was in Canada and 40% of the people or something along those lines want, like Europe and want to come to Europe. My God. When leaders in Africa and Asia, when people in the developing world say we want to have no part of this nonsense, then you have to really question your outlook on the world. But, leave it to her, because this woman is capable of raising the bar when it comes to stupidity. Trust me, the limits she has are boundless.
In fact, People still want to join our club, and not just fellow Europeans. When I was in Canada last year, I was told that over 40% of Canadians have an interest in joining the European Union. So the waiting list is quite long. I just hope that those who have been waiting for quite some time would not have to wait for longer.
40% of Canadians, over 40% of Canadians have an interest in joining the European Union. The European Union cannot decide on what to do in Ukraine. They cannot decide on what is good for Europe. Every policy they try to promulgate comes up with issues and headaches and dissent amongst their own ranks. Now, you ask yourself, if a Canadian really wants to become a part of this, and I have no issues with the Canadians, I think they're amazing people. So I don't know which Canadian she's speaking about. Because if 40% of Canadians want to become part of a failing system, I think the world has lost all hope. I think humanity is doomed.
But let's be clear-eyed about Russia. Russia is no superpower. After more than a decade of a conflict, including 4 years of full-scale war in Ukraine, Russia has barely advanced beyond the 2014 lines. And the cost? 1.2 million casualties. Today, Russia is broken. Its economy is in shreds. It is disconnected from the European energy markets, and its own citizens are fleeing.
Russia today is broken. Its economy is in shreds. I've heard this 4 years ago. I heard this from Biden. The ruble will be turned to rubble. For the last 4 years, going on 5 years, I've heard nothing but Russia is finished. Any day now, and it's 5 years. And what's happened? In 5 years, Ukraine is getting smaller and smaller. So either this woman thinks we're stupid, or she's a real imbecile. Because everything she's saying is hogwash. I really do not understand. And this is why there's so much of pushback against the EU, because they're selected. And they're not elected by their people. So these clowns are put into power. And it's like, mates just looking after mates. This is like a private club. But it's a private club of the most articulate imbeciles on the planet. Because you cannot get more thick than this. I tell you honestly, this is the kind of person that has got, if you can probably count the brain cells on one finger. That's how stupid this woman is. And this is how moronic she sounds. There's so much that this moron has spoken about. I'm just going to leave a link. Go and have a look at her speech. I'll attach the 6.5 minute clip to the end of my video so you can see it. Because trust me, every time this woman opens her mouth, she affirms her stupidity. Really. Her intellect is something that is non-existent. I've never, you've seen political leaders that are really stupid. But this is on another level. And if this is what is to come in the future, God help the world. So I want to thank you for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode, and please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm.
Excellencies, dear friends, I want to start with some appreciation for the marvel inspired of this panel, Europeans Assemble. And we're getting there, dusting off our gapes, pulling up our boots, revving up our engines. Europeans also know what this fight is for. Not only our excellent living standards, health and happiness, but lessons we have learned from our own history. Contrary to what some may say, woke, decadent Europe is not facing civilizational erasure. In fact, people still want to join our club, and not just fellow Europeans. When I was in Canada last year, I was told that over 40% of Canadians have an interest in joining the European Union. So the waiting list is quite long. I just hope that those who have been waiting for quite some time would not have to wait for longer. As the polls show, those who are already members want their union to take a stronger role in the world, to defend our values, to take care of our people, and to push humanity forwards. As President Macron said in Davos, Europe is sometimes too slow, for sure, and needs to be reformed, for sure. But we absolutely know what we are and what we stand for. I agree that there is an urgent need to reclaim European agency. 3 priorities. First, Europe's defense. This starts in Ukraine, but we know that Russia's endgame is not Donbas. Beyond Ukraine, Russia already seeks to cripple economies through cyber attacks, disrupt satellites, sabotage undersea cables, fracture alliances with disinformation, coerce countries by weaponizing oil and gas. And of course, there is also the nuclear threat. To respond to these challenges in a coherent and systematic way, I'm working closely with Ursula von der Leyen on a new European security strategy. This strategy will address all dimensions of European security, from hard security and defense to economic security and preparedness. Because in today's world, security is indivisible. But let's be clear-eyed about Russia. Russia is no superpower. After more than a decade of a conflict, including 4 years of full-scale war in Ukraine, Russia has barely advanced beyond the 2014 lines. And the cost? 1.2 million casualties. Today, Russia is broken. Its economy is in shreds, it is disconnected from the European energy markets, and its own citizens are fleeing. In fact, the greatest threat Russia presents right now is that it gains more at the negotiation table than it has achieved on the battlefield. And on the topic of negotiations, what matters more than having a seat at the table is knowing what to ask when you are sitting there. How I see it is very simple. Russia's maximalist demands cannot be met with minimalist response. Think about it. If Ukraine's military is to be limited in size, Russia should be too. Where Russia has caused damage in Ukraine, Russia should pay. No amnesty for war crimes, return of the Ukrainian deported children. This is really the very least Russia should agree if peace is Russia's goal. But as we suspect it is not Russia's goal, Europe is rearming and doing so together with our friends. The second priority is stability in the European neighborhood, East and South. This is where Europe has most agency. Our priority here is enlargement, the antidote to Russian imperialism. Since 1990, states that freed themselves from the Soviet domination and joined the European Union have grown more than twice as fast as Russia. In 1990, Russians were twice as rich as Poles. Today, Poles are roughly 70% richer than Russians. I also agree with the historian Timothy Snyder, who writes that European enlargement is a vital for securing democracy and overcoming Europe's own imperial history. Today, enlargement is a geopolitical choice, and we must say yes. Our third priority is international partnerships. Take trade, for example. The European Union has built the largest free trade network in the world. Close to 80 countries are now covered by EU trade agreements. And on top of trade, we are creating partnerships on security and defense. 10 so far, including India and Australia this year alone. Countries want to diversify their partnerships to manage the risks in the rougher world, including a constant threat of tariffs. They want to find joint solutions to digital challenges from standards to semiconductors, because vast majority of the countries also want the same thing: stability, growth, prosperity for their people. The best way to get there is to go together. To conclude, we hear the call to action: Europeans assemble, and let me take more inspiration from the Marvel universe. Heroes are made by the paths they choose, not the powers that they are graced with. Europe's path is clear: defend Europe, secure our neighborhood, and build partnerships across the globe. Thank you.